All right, guys, welcome to Great and Gather Barbecue. Today we're doing something I've never done just on its own. It's a brisket flat. It's a really nice 7.5 pound brisket flat. I've only ever cooked whole brisket packers, which are two separate muscles. And when you think of a traditional brisket, it has a point, which is going to be down here, and then you have this flat, and this is where you get your slices from. I had a awesome friend that said, hey, I'm buying a brisket, I want you to cook it. And you can never say no to that. So I'm super excited to cook this. This is the flat only, so this will all be sliced. There will be no burnt ends made, or at least real burnt ends. Real burnt ends come from the point of a brisket, which is down here. Two separate muscles. It's really nice. It's a choice brisket. There's like not really much fat at all. So this is all I've trimmed, just so tiny. This is a back fat that you want about 1/4 inch, and it's a 1/4 inch, so I'm not gonna touch it. I'm a little nervous on keeping this thing moist, juicy, whatever you want to call it. So I'm actually going to inject it with beef broth. I bought the 50% less sodium just because I don't want to pump it full of a bunch of salt and then put our salt rub on it. My first brisket I ever did, a full one, I put way too much stuff inside of it. It was like salty, really, really salty, and then I put a bunch of rub, and it was really salty. It was still good, but it was really salty, and I don't want that today. So I am going to inject this, just a few spots, just a cheap injector, and put some liquid in it, and then we'll season it. So I'll probably like fast forward the injection part. I'll talk a little bit what I'm doing at first, and then we'll keep moving forward. So I'm just gonna pick different areas and then use the same hole and just rotate also. So that way I'm not putting a bunch of holes, extra holes in this thing. Whoa. Sometimes it is very dangerous when you start injecting. Things are going to fly everywhere, so just be aware of that. But you'll notice some areas they'll just puff up, and that's because you're adding that beef broth. All right, so I've added maybe 1.5 cups, 2 cups of injection. A lot of it bled out on the cutting board. Some of it squirted everywhere, so maybe a cup-ish, but this is just to add some extra moisture. That's what brisket flats are, not the fatty part of the brisket, the point is. And so these can dry out really easily. So here's the plan. I have the smoker pits and spits at 200 degrees right now, and I'm just going to cook it low and slow. It is 6 a.m. We're hoping to eat at 6 p.m. tonight. So 12 hours. I'm expecting this to cook 10 hours and then have 2-hour rest. If it's going too slow, I'll bump the temp up to 225. Or what did I say it's at, 200? Yeah, 200 degrees is what I have it at now. I'll bump it up to 225 or 235. Basically, once it hits 165 degrees, 160-ish degrees internal temp, I'm going to wrap it with butcher paper. I'm going to treat this thing the same way I would do a full packer brisket. And we're gonna see. It's gonna still turn out great. So it's not like I'm gambling with someone else's money at that point. But I'm gonna wrap this thing with butcher paper. It will retain its moisture better, and also will keep that bark. And it should speed up the cooking process because 10 hours is all I'm expecting this thing to take. So our seasonings today are going to be from the meat church. The one is a holy cow barbecue rub. It's really good. This is like my go-to for when I do a brisket. I will eventually do other seasonings, but this is my go-to. So you do like a 2-to-1, and this is the barbecue gospel. You guys have seen me use this on the channel. I am going to use something that I got for Christmas that, why not? It's a Cosmos brisket mop. So I actually have to do a little bit more research. I think you do it at the end of the cook. But I'm going to be putting this brisket mop on because why not? You have it. You need to start using stuff in your arsenal, right? So I'm not going to really rub this down with any type of oil or mustard because it still has a ton of the beef broth all on it. So you'll see it will stick probably pretty good. I'm going to actually cook it today fat side up. There's a debate whether you do that or whether you don't. I'm going to do it today just on this flat, and that's what I'm going to do. So I've cooked them both ways, fat side down, fat side up. Today I'm just feeling I'm going to be fat side up. So we're going to take and do a base layer of the holy cow. And remember, this is like a 2-to-1, so I won't do as much of this. I'm going to flip up my sides again so it's not going all over the counter. And you'll always start with your non-presentation side. So if you were a traditional, like, you know, the fat is on the bottom of this thing, you would do that side, but we're doing fat side up, which means this is the bottom right now. Nice even layer is what you're wanting. Kind of lift up if you want the sides to get them sides. All right, I'm not sure if you can see that. Pretty light layer, nothing crazy. And then we'll come back through and do an even lighter layer of the barbecue gospel. That's my dog. She's really excited for barbecue also. I mean, everyone's excited for brisket. So I've got the top seasoned, not over seasoning this, but this will be enough to make a good bark also. So now I flipped it. This is technically now your presentation side because we're cooking fat side up. So we'll start with the holy cow. It's a nice thing with brisket. It's so flimsy, you can kind of just lift it and do whatever you need. I'm gonna get these sides real quick. We want a good bark. Everyone loves bark on a brisket. And we'll finish it up with the barbecue gospel. All right, so it's seasoned up. And while I'm inside, what I like to do is get my probes set where I want it. I'm actually gonna like over probe this thing because I'm so nervous about making sure the temperature is right where it needs to be. So I'm gonna put I have 4 probes. I don't know if I'll use them all. But rather than doing it, what happens to me a lot, I've learned, is you get out to the grill and you have maybe your probes hooked up to maybe your grill actually has something that probes, or an external one like my fireboard. And it's kind of like, just like you want to get this thing on and you just start probing it. Whereas like I have the best light in here. It's a controlled environment. Like I can just choose exactly where I want to be and there's no guesswork. I don't have great light out there since it's 6 a.m. right now. So I'm going to stick my probes in and get that to where I can monitor it. This is a thicker part of the meat right here, so I want to make sure that, but this is also a real thin part. So I want to make sure that this doesn't dry out too fast, too soon. So I'm going to probe it right now. All right, so all these probes are in. You don't have to put 4 probes in a piece of meat, but I just want to make sure nothing's drying out. Remember, I didn't buy this thing, so the person that did buy it is going to be over here tonight. So you want to make sure everything is good. So I will go put this on, and then I will see you more at the 160-degree mark. All right, guys, so I just pulled this thing off. It's about 165 degrees. I've had it really low because dinner got pushed back a little bit. So it's been like 7 hours. It's at 165 degrees. We're supposed to eat in, I don't know, another 5-ish hours, 6 hours. So really hoping that after I wrap it, it just really picks up. And I'm going to bump the pellet grill actually to 250 degrees since the smoke is done. It's going to be inside of this butcher paper. We're getting ready to wrap it. So I might as well just speed it up a little bit. It can rest a couple hours wrapped up in tin foil. But I am going to do something a little different. So I talked about this brisket mop. I did some research, and it's a concentrate. So I mixed it with the leftover beef broth. And I'm actually going to kind of put it... hey. Excuse her. She's excited for the mop too. So I'm going to put some actually in the butcher wrap. Never done it before. Don't know what it's going to be like, but it's everything I've review-wise has been good. So just going to put this on the butchered paper. Hopefully I cut a big enough piece. It's still fat side up right now. Yeah, I mean, look at those juices. So I'll just pour those right back on. Wow. And then center it up as best as you can. All right, so that's how it will sit. So I'll just crack it open a little bit and put some of this brisket mop in it. I just wanted to make sure that was gonna work and see how it goes. All right, we'll see when this thing hits 203 degrees and is probe tender. All right, guys, so it took about 11 hours to do this. I kept it at 180 most of the time, 6 hours or so, and then I bumped it to 250 after I wrapped it. And it's been resting for about an hour and a half. So you want at least an hour to just let kind of some juices run. It looks really good. We're gonna slice into it and see exactly what the slices look like. You always wanna slice against the grain on a brisket, on the flat part. So the grain is running this way, so we're gonna be cutting this way. We'll do a few slices and then I'll bring up what it looks like. So it looks pretty good. It's got a pretty good smoke ring. They always do the flap test. It's flapping. But then will tell how tender it is. So that's a perfectly cooked brisket. And yeah, I can't wait to enjoy it with everyone. So just to recap, we injected this with beef broth, put it on 11 hours, first 7 hours up to 160 degrees, 180 degrees to 200 degrees, wrapped it, bumped the pellet grill to 250. And till it finished at 203, but around 200 degrees on a brisket, you want to, it's not necessarily to temp, you want to probe it. And basically think of like a hot
knife and butter, how that goes in. That's how your probe should go into the meat. So even though it was at 200 degrees, I probed it in a couple spots and it wasn't actually ready, so I let it go a little bit longer. So that's how you know when a brisket is done. It's got to be probed tender. So thanks for joining me, and do a brisket flat. You can do it. All right, guys, now the best part about this 12-hour cook and rest is we get to enjoy it. It went from the great to now gathering the people. Like a big family. If you don't have people in your life, get a smoker because it brings people together. Barbecue does. So have a wonderful week. See ya.